Today we expose Woolworths, the supermarket built on fake discounts, hidden data harvesting, and cheap knockoff products that quietly drain millions of Australians every week. They are counting on you to stay quiet, keep shopping, and keep getting ripped off. So hit like and share this now as an act of resistance, because the more Australians see the truth, the harder it becomes for them to keep robbing us. Number 1. The prices dropped illusion. The fake discount. You are walking down the brightly lit aisle, trying desperately to stretch your budget for the week. You are looking at the crowded shelves, carefully calculating every single cent, nervously checking your bank balance on your phone, and then you see it. That bright red prices drop tag hanging proudly on a family pack of Tim Tams, a large jar of Moccona coffee, or a bulk box of Energizer batteries. You grab it immediately, toss it into your wire trolley, and feel like you just scored a vital, much-needed win for your wallet. It feels like a rare moment of relief in a crushing, unrelenting cost of living crisis that is suffocating Middle Australia. But the visceral reality is the sickening, hollow, deeply bitter feeling in the absolute pit of your stomach when you finally discover you were played like an absolute fool by a cold, calculating corporate algorithm. The Australian Competition and Consumer Commission literally took Woolworths to the federal court, officially alleging the massive supermarket systematically misled trusting customers with illegal, highly deceptive, and entirely illusory pricing tactics. The consumer watchdog singled out more than 260 specific documented examples where Woolworths allegedly spiked the baseline price of an everyday household item by at least 15% for a very short, strategic period, only to suddenly drop it back down to a price that was still significantly higher than the original normal cost. They slapped a massive prices drop tag right on it, and you bought it, genuinely, honestly thinking you saved your family money. You did not. You were mathematically manipulated. The financial sting is brutal, entirely silent, and absolutely relentless. You think you saved 50 measly cents? But you actually overpaid by a full $1 on an item you buy every single week without fail. Across an entire year of grocery shopping, that highly sophisticated fake discount strategy drains hundreds, if not thousands of dollars from your family budget directly into their corporate profit margins, helping quietly fund their massive multi-billion-dollar corporate earnings reports. The bold signage loudly promises long-term, reliable savings on the very household essentials that your family heavily relies on to survive the week. But the hard, undeniable data reveals a cold, ruthlessly calculated pricing algorithm that briefly, artificially inflates costs just so they can legally advertise a fake price drop and completely trick your tired brain into buying. The intense physical sensation is one of total, humiliating, burning betrayal. You trusted the red tag. You trusted the familiar store layout. You trusted the smiling brand, and they used that blind generational trust to quietly pick your pocket right in front of your own eyes. Have you ever bought a prices dropped item and realized much later it used to be much cheaper? Drop your experience in the comments right now. Let us build a huge list the whole community can finally see. And if you think their pricing is deceptive, number 2 is a disgusting health hazard lurking right in the deli section. Number 2, the moisture-infused beef, the water trap. You walk over to the chilled meat section to buy a nice topside roast for a traditional, comforting Sunday dinner. You want a hearty, solid, deeply nutritious piece of prime Australian beef to feed your family and bring everyone together around the table. You confidently pick up the Woolworths branded roast, feeling the heavy, satisfying weight in your hands, looking at the bright, incredibly red color, glowing under the carefully calibrated artificial lights, through the tight plastic film, thinking you have grabbed a fantastic, wholesome deal for the weekend. But when you get it home, unwrap the plastic and put it in the hot, oiled roasting pan, the visceral reality hits you like a wet, degrading slap in the face. Instead of searing, sizzling loudly and beautifully browning on the edges like real, honest, natural meat should, the roast immediately starts weeping uncontrollably. It sits there sadly in a rapidly growing deep pool of grey, murky, aggressively bubbling liquid. It begins to literally, disgustingly boil in its own artificial injected juices. The texture rapidly becomes intensely rubbery, horribly spongy, and deeply, undeniably unnatural in your mouth when you try to chew it. The smell is a watery, highly depressing boiled meat odor with a faint, disturbing chemical sulfur smell. Absolutely not the rich, deeply savory, mouth-watering aroma of roasting natural beef fat that you were expecting. You look incredibly closely at the tiny, blurred, fine print on the label, hidden far away at the bottom corner where you would never, ever think to look when rushing through a busy shop with screaming kids. And there it is, written in tiny letters, moisture infused. Woolworths literally actively pumps water, cheap salt, and chemical sodium nitrite deep into the muscle fibers of the meat specifically to make it much heavier on the checkout scales and supposedly slightly more tender on the plate. But you are paying premium, incredibly high per kilo meat prices for heavy, salty, totally useless water. A former, highly experienced butcher confirmed openly on Reddit that this dark industrial practice violently breaks the silvers and artificially extends the shelf life for the supermarket. But struggling consumers rightly feel deeply outraged and financially cheated. The financial sting is incredibly direct, painful, and infuriating. If you pay $20 a kilo for a beef roast that is 10% infused liquid, you are literally paying $2 for salty tap water that just completely evaporates into the thin air inside your hot oven. You're literally standing there watching your hard-earned, heavily taxed money boil away into a disgusting, grey, bubbling slurry at the bottom of a metal roasting pan. The bright packaging proudly promises a succulent, premium, high-quality Australian beef roast, absolutely perfect for your loving family table. But the depressing reality reveals a chemically pumped, highly processed, heavily manipulated product engineered in a sterile factory to weigh much more on the scales and shrink dramatically, humiliatingly in your pan. If you have been to one of these and walked away feeling like something was horribly off, I want to hear it. Comment below. Your story could warn someone else before it is too late. Number 3, the Woolworths coleslaw. The salmonella scare. You are rushing frantically through the crowded store, desperately grabbing a quick, supposedly healthy side dish for a fun family barbecue on a boiling hot weekend. You absolutely do not have the precious time to stand there and chop fresh cabbage, so the Woolworths branded coleslaw looks incredibly fresh, perfectly crisp, and wonderfully convenient sitting there in the brightly lit, humming chiller. It has the deeply trusted, familiar green Woolworths logo. The clear plastic tub perfectly shows off the bright purple cabbage and vibrant orange carrots, and you naturally assume it is perfectly 100% safe to serve to your young kids, your elderly parents, and your invited guests. But the visceral, horrifying reality is the sheer, heart-stopping, breath-stealing terror of an urgent, massive nationwide food safety recall hitting the evening news. Woolworths was suddenly forced to issue an incredibly urgent recall for multiple sizes of its highly popular own-brand coleslaw right across the entire country. The terrifying, stomach-churning reason? Potential highly severe microbial contamination with dangerous salmonella. Imagine happily, proudly serving that crunchy, creamy, mayonnaise-covered salad to your trusting family on a flimsy paper plate, completely unaware that it could harbor a highly dangerous, invisible bacteria that causes severe, violent vomiting, wildly spiking fevers, agonizing, doubled-over stomach cramps, and days of entirely debilitating, completely exhausting illness. Food Standards Australia. New Zealand actually had to officially step in and issue the massive public alert, strictly warning all consumers that simply eating the product could cause serious, hospital-level, highly dangerous illness. The intense physical sensation is the cold, dripping sweat of pure, unadulterated panic when you frantically rip open the fridge door to see if your innocent kids already ate it for lunch. The massive financial sting is not just the $5 you stupidly wasted on the contaminated toxic plastic tub. It is the incredibly stressful days of lost work when you absolutely cannot leave the bathroom, the highly expensive emergency doctor visits, the costly prescription medication, and the immense, totally avoidable physical suffering of severe, violent food poisoning, all caused entirely by a massive, wealthy supermarket cutting dangerous corners on its own giant, opaque supply chain. The packaging brightly promises fresh, wonderfully convenient, healthy, farm-style vegetables prepared safely and lovingly for your ease. But the dark reality reveals a mass-produced, highly centralized, risky product processed in massive, dirty industrial conditions that somehow unforgivably allow dangerous, totally invisible pathogens to completely contaminate a ready-to-eat food sitting right on the retail shelf. Tell me in the comments, did you know about this? Or did this just completely change the way you see everything in that brightly lit aisle? Number 4, the Everyday Extra subscription, the loyalty trap. You finally sign up for the Everyday Extra program purely because you are desperate, truly, deeply desperate, to save absolutely any amount of money on your increasingly expensive weekly shop. The rising cost of living, the massive rent hikes, the surging fuel prices are all heavily crushing you down. For $7 a month or a flat $70 a year, Woolworths boldly, loudly promises you a massive 10% off one single shop a month and double rewards points on absolutely everything you buy in-store. You tap the glowing screen, pay the required fee, and you genuinely think you are hacking the massive system, being an incredibly smart consumer, and finally beating grocery inflation at its own rigged, highly unfair game. But the visceral, deeply depressing reality is the slow, creeping, utterly humiliating, undeniable realization that you are literally paying a massive, incredibly wealthy, multi-billion-dollar corporation a monthly subscription fee just for the absolute privilege of being their captive, obedient, totally loyal customer. To actually make that promised 10% discount mathematically worthwhile in any real sense, you are violently, structurally forced to consolidate all of your weekly spending into one massive, highly stressful, completely overflowing monthly shop at Woolworths. You exhaustingly walk the endless aisles, filling a giant metal trolley right to the absolute brim, completely blinding yourself to the significantly, undeniably cheaper prices at Aldi, the local independent grocers, or the friendly local butcher down the street. The financial sting is coldly, brilliantly, ruthlessly calculated by their highly paid corporate accountants. You confidently pay the $70 annual fee up front. But if you accidentally fail to execute that massive, perfectly timed, highly orchestrated monthly shop because life gets far too busy, you get terribly sick, or your old car breaks down, you actually, literally lose your own money. Meanwhile, Woolworths perfectly, seamlessly locks you entirely into their tightly closed ecosystem, ensuring you never even bother to check the significantly lower prices down the road. You spend thousands of hard-earned dollars a year with them just to desperately, constantly try to earn back your own $70 entry fee. The slick marketing wildly promises extra value, elite shopper status, and highly exclusive member benefits that supposedly put real money directly back in your tight pocket. But the dark truth reveals a highly psychological, deeply manipulative subscription trap designed specifically, intentionally to stop you from ever shopping at cheaper competitors and carefully keep your money flowing endlessly in one single direction. I want to know how many people watching this right now have already been heavily burned by this. Comment the word yes if this has happened to you, and if you think that is a massive ripoff. Number 5 is an even bigger illusion that entirely takes over entire aisles of the store. Number 5, the phantom home brands, the disguise trick. You are peacefully walking down the crowded pantry aisle and you see a brand of pasta, baking flour, or tomato sauce you do not immediately recognize. It has a beautifully rustic, incredibly authentic sounding name, stunning, high-quality artisanal matte packaging, and looks perfectly like a premium boutique Australian product carefully made by a small, highly passionate family business. You buy it instantly because you genuinely, deeply want to support independent, struggling makers. And it happens to be slightly, noticeably cheaper than the major, faceless multinational brands sitting right next to it. You feel deeply proud and incredibly good about your ethical choice as you carefully put it in the shopping bag. But the visceral, highly upsetting reality is the bitter, awful metallic taste of deep corporate deception and blatant betrayal. It is absolutely not an independent family brand at all. It is literally a cheap Woolworths home brand hiding in a very clever, highly funded, brilliantly designed disguise. The highly respected consumer group Choice rigorously investigated this exact, deeply deceptive corporate tactic, entirely exposing how massive supermarkets deliberately, knowingly, create these fake phantom brands to completely flood the shelves, create the complete, total illusion of consumer variety, and quietly, ruthlessly push out real, struggling, independent competition. You happily open the packet when you get home, and the texture is weirdly, awfully grainy. The flavor is deeply cloying, completely flat, and highly artificial, and the overall ingredient quality is precisely the same as the absolute cheapest, nastiest, black and white home brand option, sitting sadly on the bottom shelf, gathering thick dust. They literally just paid a very expensive graphic designer to completely change the outside label, and they instantly doubled the retail price. The financial sting is incredibly subtle, but absolutely massive and devastating across your entire lifetime of grocery shopping. You happily pay a premium high markup for what you genuinely, honestly, deeply think is a mid-tier, high-quality, independent product, but you are actually receiving base-level, mass-produced, lowest bidder, terrible home brand quality. Over time, as real, authentic, truly independent brands are literally aggressively pushed off the supermarket shelves entirely to make vast amounts of room for these highly profitable corporate phantoms, you are left with absolutely no choice but to buy the Woolworths product at whatever highly inflated price they arrogantly decide to dictate. The beautiful packaging deeply promises rustic, independent, artisanal, high-tier quality, crafted with deep care and long tradition. But the cold reality reveals a ruthless, deeply calculating corporate clone designed specifically, maliciously, to trick you into completely buying their cheapest, lowest-grade product at a significantly, massively higher profit margin. Have you ever bought a product thinking it was truly independent, only to find out it was secretly just a cheap Woolworths brand? Drop your experience in the comments right now. Let us build a massive list the whole community can finally see. Number 6. The Elite Sweets recall, the contaminated treats. You just desperately want a simple, nice treat for the long weekend. You are walking down the brightly colored, highly tempting confectionery aisle and you eagerly grab some chocolate bars, sweet biscuits, or sugary lollies from the packed shelf. They are standard, incredibly popular, well-known snacks, the exact kind you have bought 100 times before to reward yourself after a terribly long week or to make your crying kids smile. You trust the massive supermarket implicitly, with your whole heart, to only stock safe, highly regulated, perfectly clean, completely edible food. But the visceral, absolutely terrifying reality is finding out, usually far too late, that the sugary snacks you happily gave your vulnerable small children were actually part of a massive, incredibly urgent, highly publicized nationwide recall. Woolworths was absolutely forced to urgently, immediately pull a huge range of elite branded confectionery products completely off its massive shelves due to a potential, highly dangerous, completely unacceptable salmonella contamination. Food Standards Australia had to publicly announce the severe, wide-reaching recall, literally begging and urgently advising customers to return the products immediately because the risk of a severe, life-threatening bacterial infection outbreak was far too incredibly high. The intense physical sensation is the cold, terrifying hard knot of deep anxiety in your stomach, wondering late at night in the dark if the really bad stomachache your young child complained about last week was just a passing, normal school bug, or if it was the exact contaminated chocolate you proudly bought them from a supposedly deeply trusted store. The financial sting is the absolute, complete, soul-crushing betrayal of your basic, fundamental consumer trust. You pay incredibly high, premium prices for sweet treats that are supposed to bring your stressed family pure, simple joy. But the giant corporate supply chains are so vast, so incredibly opaque, and so hyper-focused entirely on massive volume and extreme speed that dangerous, sickening bacteria literally slip right through the wide cracks and land directly onto the retail shelf at perfect eye level. The slick marketing warmly promises pure joy, wonderful, relaxing indulgence and completely safe, fun treats for your happy family movie night on the couch. But the incredibly dark reality reveals a highly fragile, totally profit-driven, precarious, completely broken supply network that can easily put contaminated, physically dangerous, sickening food straight into your shopping trolley without a single second thought from the executives. If you have been to one of these and walked away feeling like something was horribly off, I want to hear it. Comment below. Your story could warn someone else before it is too late. Number 7, the in-store bakery bread, the glass hazard. You smell the incredibly warm, deeply comforting, entirely nostalgic scent of baking fresh bread the exact second you walk through the automatic sliding doors into the massive store. It feels exactly like a local, traditional, deeply caring community bakery. You walk over and happily buy a freshly baked loaf or a 6-pack of soft rolls for your morning toast or your young kids' packed school lunches. You squeeze the paper bag. It feels perfectly, wonderfully crusty on the outside and incredibly soft, warm and pillowy on the inside. But the visceral, absolutely nightmarish reality is sitting happily at your kitchen table, biting down hard into that soft, incredibly warm bread, and suddenly hearing a sickening, terrifying, bone-chilling, incredibly loud crunch against your sensitive teeth. Woolworths actually had to completely urgently recall its in-store made bakery bread rolls and full loaves in certain specific locations entirely because of the potential presence of highly dangerous foreign matter, specifically jagged, razor-sharp shards of broken glass. The incredible sensory horror of finding shattered, terribly sharp glass hidden deep inside a soft, innocent bread roll that you were just about to swallow whole, or infinitely worse, happily give to your very young, trusting child, is absolutely, completely unimaginable and horrifying. It is the ultimate catastrophic, totally unforgivable violation of a basic, safe food product. The tiny financial sting of a simple $3 loaf of bread is entirely and completely negligible compared to the massive, terrifying, life-threatening physical risk. An emergency, high-speed, terrified hospital trip for a deeply lacerated mouth, a heavily bleeding throat, or severe, truly life-altering internal stomach damage is a horrific nightmare no Australian family should ever have to face, simply because they bought a basic staple item from a major, supposedly trusted supermarket chain. The warm, inviting signage warmly promises incredibly fresh, high artisan, daily baked, wholesome goodness made with immense care and love right there in store. But the terrifying data reveals a highly chaotic, extreme high pressure, totally industrial bakery environment where basic safety procedures and fundamental quality control failed so completely and so catastrophically that shattered glass ended up permanently baked right into the daily dough. Tell me in the comments, Did you know about this? Or did this just completely permanently change the way you see everything in that entire aisle? Number 8, the Everyday Rewards app. The data harvest. You faithfully scan your bright orange Everyday Rewards app at the cold self-checkout every single time you do a shop. The bright screen flashes a happy green, the machine makes a cheerful, highly engineered little beep, and you feel a tiny, completely engineered hit of dopamine in your brain. You are actively collecting points. You are supposedly earning $10 off your massive shop eventually. You genuinely think you are playing the modern loyalty game perfectly, but the visceral, highly disturbing reality is the chilling, deeply dystopian realization of what that single little beep actually means for your personal privacy. You are absolutely not the valued customer in this digital transaction. You are the raw, completely exposed product being aggressively sold to the highest corporate bidder. That little app aggressively, constantly tracks every single item you ever buy, exactly what precise time you buy it, which specific exact store you visit, what exact brand of cheap cereal you prefer, and exactly how completely price-sensitive you are when things go on a fake sale. It silently builds a terrifyingly detailed, highly invasive, deeply psychological and financial profile of your entire private life. It knows exactly if you have a new baby. It knows perfectly well if you are desperately, sadly dieting. It knows immediately if you are suddenly struggling to afford premium meat and have sadly switched to cheap sausages. The financial sting is completely invisible, but absolutely massive and unending. Woolworths uses this massive, totally unprecedented trove of deeply personal data to target you relentlessly with highly specific, entirely algorithmically generated digital offers, perfectly designed by computers to psychologically manipulate your exact spending habits. They know exactly, down to the cent, how much of a tiny discount it takes to make you completely cave and buy something you absolutely do not actually need. You foolishly think you are saving a measly $10 every few long months, but they are extracting thousands of dollars of invisible value by selling your deeply anonymized shopping habits to massive third-party data brokers and heavily using it to constantly, tirelessly optimize their own complex pricing algorithms to extract the absolute maximum possible profit directly from your shrinking wallet. The incredibly slick marketing brightly, loudly promises wonderful rewards, fun points, and incredibly friendly savings just to warmly thank you for your continued loyalty. But the extremely dark reality reveals a relentless, completely unsleeping, highly advanced corporate surveillance tool engineered from the absolute ground up to deeply mine your personal life for raw data and totally manipulate your purchasing decisions before you even walk through the sliding doors. Have you ever received a highly targeted ad on your phone that felt just a little too incredibly, scarily accurate right after a quick grocery shopping trip? Drop your experience in the comments right now. Let us build a massive list the whole community can clearly see. Number 9, the deep fryer disaster, the safety penalty. You walk slowly down the completely packed middle aisle, the one filled entirely with cheap, highly exciting-looking appliances and random homewares. You easily spot a Woolworths home brand deep fryer sitting quietly on the bottom shelf. The bright price tag is incredibly, almost unbelievably low, much cheaper than the highly familiar, trusted name brands sitting proudly in the dedicated, expensive appliance stores. You eagerly buy it, completely thinking you have just grabbed an amazing, absolutely unbeatable bargain for making fun hot chips on lazy Friday night dinners. But the visceral, absolutely terrifying reality is confidently plugging it straight into the kitchen wall and suddenly smelling the deeply acrid, highly toxic, choking stench of fast-melting cheap plastic, hearing the terrifying, incredibly loud spark of a massive, sudden short circuit, and facing the very real, deeply immediate, horrifying threat of a catastrophic roaring house fire, the Federal Court of Australia literally officially ordered Woolworths to pay well over $3 million in massive, highly punitive financial penalties for severely, completely breaching the strict Australian consumer law. This massive penalty was specifically relating to severe, totally life-threatening safety issues with their very own house brand products, completely including a deep fryer, highly toxic drain cleaner, and supposedly safe matches. The highest court officially declared that Woolworths actively engaged in incredibly misleading and deeply deceptive conduct, making blatantly false, completely untrue representations about the basic safety of these very dangerous products. Imagine confidently filling a cheap machine with highly flammable oil, plunging wet food into boiling fat, completely, totally trusting the machine not to instantly explode, while the massive multi-billion-dollar corporation that proudly sold it to you entirely knew or absolutely should have known it was fundamentally, incredibly, deeply, dangerously unsafe. The massive financial sting is absolutely, completely not just replacing the incredibly cheap, totally broken appliance. It is the horrific, entirely life-ruining potential massive cost of a massive, uncontrollable kitchen fire, utterly devastating total property damage, or severe, agonizing third-degree burns caused entirely, solely by a massive, wealthy retailer prioritizing incredibly cheap, completely unregulated overseas manufacturing over basic, fundamental, deeply necessary consumer safety. The bright, reassuring packaging warmly promises an incredibly affordable, highly reliable, wonderfully easy-to-use kitchen appliance for your whole happy family to enjoy together. But the stark, undeniable court data reveals a reckless, highly dangerous, totally callous disregard for basic product safety that actively, knowingly put millions of deeply trusting Australians at immediate, very real risk of severe physical harm just to desperately maintain incredibly high corporate profit margins on dangerously cheap imports. If you have been to one of these and walked away feeling like something was terribly, horribly off, I want to hear it right now. Comment below. Your story could literally warn someone else before it is completely too late. Number 10, the shrinking product sizes, the hidden inflation. You walk happily down the familiar aisle and pick up your absolute favorite, completely trusted box of Woolworths brand cereal, sweet biscuits, or a giant bag of frozen chips. The colorful cardboard box looks exactly, completely the same as it did last month. The bold, large price tag is exactly the same as it was last week. You confidently, happily put it right in your trolley, deeply relieved that at least one single thing has not gone up in terrible price during this horrific, completely crushing inflation crisis. But the visceral, highly upsetting reality is the hollow, deeply frustrating, entirely empty feeling when you finally open the sealed box on your kitchen counter at home. The plastic bag inside is mostly just thin, completely useless air. The actual biscuits are noticeably much thinner and far more brittle. The tiny, almost invisible printed weight on the absolute bottom back corner of the box has quietly, completely, secretly dropped from a solid 500 grams right down to a measly 400 grams. This is highly calculated shrinkflation, and the major supermarket chains are the absolute, totally undisputed grandmasters of it. They rely heavily, entirely on the simple, proven fact that you absolutely do not have the time to sit there and memorize the exact gram weight of every single basic product you buy for your busy family. The deep physical sensation is the incredibly gritty, highly frustrating, utterly infuriating realization that you are literally holding significantly less actual food in your bare hands for the exact same amount of hard-earned money. The invisible financial sting is absolutely, completely devastating over the course of a long year. If the bright shelf price stays exactly the same, but the actual physical volume inside drops by a massive 20%, you have literally just been hit with a completely hidden, entirely secret 20% price increase without ever being told. You now absolutely have to buy the product much more often, spending significantly more of your tight weekly wage just to desperately keep your pantry stocked at the exact same level. The loud packaging boldly, proudly promises the exact same great taste and the exact same highly reliable value you have always known and deeply trusted. But the incredibly dark reality reveals a highly deceptive, incredibly quiet, completely engineered packaging redesign executed by executives to perfectly hide massive, crushing price hikes in absolute plain sight, desperately hoping you will be far too busy, far too tired, and far too distracted to ever notice you are being blatantly, continuously ripped off. Tell me right now in the comments, did you know about this? Or did this just completely change the way you see absolutely everything in that entire aisle? Do you see the massive pattern here? Step completely back and truly deeply look at what every single one of these terrible Woolworths traps has completely in common. They are all highly sophisticated, brilliantly engineered, incredibly ruthless mechanisms of corporate extraction perfectly, smoothly masked as modern convenience and family value. The totally fake, incredibly deceptive price drops, the deeply unnatural water-pumped weeping meat, the incredibly cleverly disguised fake home brands, the incredibly, truly dangerous cheap appliances, and the deeply manipulative subscription fees are all completely engineered by highly paid experts to make you spend significantly more money for significantly lower quality food and drastically, terrifyingly less safe products. The entire massive multi-billion-dollar system relies entirely on you deeply trusting that iconic friendly green logo completely blindly, so you never, ever read the tiny fine print, never dare to question the bright red tags, and never truly realize that the so-called incredibly friendly fresh food people are actually systematically, relentlessly, quietly stripping vital wealth and real value from your small grocery bag every single week without fail. But you absolutely do not have to be the helpless victim. Now let us finally talk about the Australian options that are actually entirely worth your precious time. Option 1. Shop at independent butchers and greengrocers. This is exactly why local, highly skilled butchers and independent, deeply passionate family greengrocers are structurally, fundamentally, entirely different from the massive, soulless supermarket duopoly. They absolutely do not inject and pump their beautiful meat full of salty tap water to totally deceptively fake the weight on the checkout scales. They absolutely do not use highly engineered, completely fake price drop tags to mathematically and deeply psychologically manipulate your tight spending. The incredible sensory proof is undeniable, highly powerful, and immediately obvious. Walk right into a real, authentic, proud butcher shop, and the fresh meat smells completely clean, highly natural and incredibly fresh, absolutely not sour, deeply watery or highly chemically treated in a massive cold factory. When you happily cook their beautiful, high-quality beef at home, it sears perfectly loudly in the incredibly hot pan, it browns beautifully and crisply on the edges, and it absolutely, definitely does not boil sadly in a disgusting, completely grey pool of its own artificial, chemically injected juices. The highly practical, extremely simple instruction you can act on right today is incredibly easy. Commit just $20 measly of your entire weekly grocery budget to an independent, completely local butcher or a passionate, family-owned fruit shop. You will deeply taste the incredible, massive, completely undeniable difference immediately, and you will finally proudly stop funding the massive, highly ruthless corporate machine that is actively, daily ripping you off. Option 2. Use price tracking apps before you buy. The absolute, completely undeniable only way to successfully entirely defeat the highly deceptive, incredibly calculated fake discount strategy is with hard, completely undeniable, entirely historical pricing data. Woolworths relies entirely, completely on your tired memory being incredibly faulty and heavily overwhelmed by the massive store. They desperately, deeply rely on you, completely forgetting exactly what the coffee jar or the batteries cost 3 long weeks ago when you were quickly rushing through the crowded store. Highly independent price tracking apps and totally free browser extensions perfectly allow you to instantly, quickly see the actual, incredibly historical, completely true price history of any single supermarket product. The deep sensory proof is the absolute, crystal clear, incredibly satisfying, totally undeniable clarity of seeing a neat graph right on your glowing phone that perfectly mathematically proves the bright red prices drop tag is a complete, totally fabricated, absolute corporate lie. You will instantly feel the immense, deeply undeniable, totally exhilarating power of knowing exactly, precisely when you are being completely manipulated by a cold, calculating corporate pricing algorithm. The highly practical, extremely actionable instruction is incredibly simple and completely, entirely free. Simply download a totally free Australian grocery price tracking app to your mobile phone right this very second. Scan the tiny barcode of the very next bright red prices dropped item you ever see on the packed supermarket shelf. When you quickly look at the screen and easily see they massively spiked the price just to entirely fake the discount, put it firmly, proudly back on the shelf and walk happily away with your own money still safely in your deep pocket. Australian food culture has tragically deeply drifted from knowing your incredibly friendly local grocer by their first name and deeply, utterly trusting your family's food to blindly, mindlessly scanning endless, meaningless barcodes in a massive, incredibly soulless, brilliantly lit corporate warehouse designed entirely from the absolute ground up to silently, relentlessly manipulate your thinning wallet. We have been completely conditioned by millions and millions of dollars in highly slick advertising to totally accept watery, deeply weeping meat, completely fake, totally illusory discounts, highly hidden, incredibly deceptive shrinkflation, and creeping massive home brand monopolies as the completely normal, totally acceptable cost of incredibly modern convenience. But the absolute, totally terrifying truth is the entire massive system is carefully, brilliantly, incredibly deeply designed by wealthy executives to slowly, ruthlessly extract your hard-earned wealth while simultaneously, noticeably, dramatically lowering your overall standard of living and the actual real quality of the precious food you feed your beloved family every single night. Stop blindly trusting the highly deceptive red tags today.